For a long time, I genuinely didn't care about Resident Evil. While everyone was calling Resident Evil 4 one of the greatest games ever made, I just ignored it. This is the same game that inspired The Last of Us, one of my favorite games of all time, and somehow I never played it. I became a Resident Evil fan in 2017 with RE7, and after that I was honestly annoyed at myself for skipping the series for so long. Since then, I have played almost every mainline game and remake, but RE4 was always the one missing piece, and I have finally completed Resident Evil 4 Remake and I'm ready to share my honest thoughts. No nostalgia, just a fresh experience in 2026. I'm not here to break down mechanics frame by frame, I'm here to talk about how it felt. So here's my experience. From everything I'd heard about RE4 over the years, I thought it would start heavy on action, but the intro felt way more tense than I expected. A big reason for that was the environment. That opening moonlit forest with the slight fog felt eerie. It was quiet and dark, and I just slowed down without even thinking. I was expecting something to happen at any moment.
No fucking way.
And it's not just the intro, the level design stays strong throughout. Every new area feels different, yet still connected. It never feels random. I kept pausing just to look around because of how detailed everything is. I especially like the interiors. The rooms feel lived in, like real places that existed before everything fell apart. The map design worked really well for me too. It's linear, but it never feels tight or restrictive. There's enough space to explore. Areas like the lake even gave a bit of an open world feel. I could unlock shortcuts, find hidden paths, go back for treasure, and most of the time it felt worth checking. I also like that the map shows what I've missed. Going back to clear areas felt satisfying instead of forced. This might honestly be my favorite world design in any Resident Evil game I've played. And yes, it's a remake, but realizing that something like this was originally built back in 2005 is honestly kind of crazy. The story of RE4 is simple. Leon is sent to a remote village in Spain to rescue the US president's daughter, Ashley. But it doesn't take long to realize something is seriously wrong. The villagers are infected with a parasite called Las Plagas. It takes control of their bodies and make them obey orders. Behind all of it is a cult leader, Lord Sadler, who's using the parasite to control everyone. The threat here is very different from what Leon faced before, but Leon himself has changed too. He's not the rookie cop from Resident Evil 2 anymore. He's trained, more experienced, and it shows in how he handles everything. I loved how badass Leon is here. The one-liners he casually drops are just too good.
Sorry, must have slipped. I am flattered, but I'm a one-lady type of guy.
Dude moves through the entire game like he's got everything under control. No panic, no hesitation, just handling whatever comes his way. And I never got tired of watching him deal with situations. Then there's Ashley. She actually surprised me. I expected her to be frustrating, but she wasn't. She reacts like a normal person would in this situation. She's the main focus of the story and keeps getting kidnapped. So a big part of the game revolves around rescuing her again and again. When she's with Leon, the game often makes you protect her, which adds tension naturally. But she rarely becomes annoying. She even has moments when she helps Leon too. And at one point, the game even lets you play as her. That section genuinely caught me off guard. The horror spikes instantly. She's not Leon. She's scared, visibly shaken, and you can feel that shift. While playing as her, the focus moves completely from dominating fights to just surviving. I honestly can't explain how tense I felt during that section. The only thing I had was a flashlight and encountered these armored enemies who only move in the dark. When I aim the light at them, they freeze, but the moment I look away or shift the beam, they start creeping toward me again. I'd run a few steps, turn back, and they'd be way closer than expected. The sound of them approaching had me genuinely sweating. I wasn't expecting to play as her, but I ended up really enjoying it. There's something about playing as a character who's actually scared that makes the horror hit much harder. The main antagonist is Lord Sadler, the one pulling everything together through Las Plagas. The idea behind him is solid, cult leader using a parasite to control villagers. But as a character, he didn't really stick with me. I felt like he didn't show up enough or interact enough with Leon for me to fully care about him. That same feeling carried into the final boss fight. The build-up feels big and cinematic, like everything is led into this huge confrontation, and visually it looks impressive, but once the fight actually starts, it didn't challenge me or hit the same way I expected. I had earlier moments in the game that stressed me out way more than this final encounter.
What a disappointment.
Like the fight with Jack Krauser. I love Krauser. He doesn't have many scenes, but from the moment he shows up, he makes an impact. Even with limited screen time, he feels important. The game has 2 boss fights with him. The first one comes when he's introduced, and it's a fast-paced knife fight where parrying really matters. It was fun, challenging, and it forced me to react quickly than I ever did before. But the second fight near the end is the one that really stood out. The first phase is about surviving while he fires rockets and mixes in sudden knife attacks.
Give me a challenge.
I fumbled a bit at first. I couldn't just panic and react. I had to slow down, focus, and actually understand his pattern. Then the second phase starts and he mutates, and that's when it really ramps up. He gets more aggressive, hits harder, and I had to stay locked in. I died a couple of times before finally beating him. It felt tough but fair, and that whole sequence had me way more invested than the final boss. For me, this is where the game peaked. Combat in RE4 felt balanced and satisfying, but never easy. I had to manage space, keep an eye on my ammo, and constantly decide when to push forward and when to step back. The gunplay felt strong, shots had weight, and landing clean hits was satisfying. There's a solid range of weapons too, and I ended up using almost all of them pretty evenly. Nothing felt completely useless. The only one I barely used was the rocket launcher, and that's a story on its own. But before getting into that, I've got to talk about the parry system. At first, I barely used parry because I kept messing up the timing. I would try it, fail, take damage, and go back to shooting because that felt safer. But once I slowed down and actually understood the timing, it became my go-to move. Being able to block most attacks made big encounters and even boss fights way more manageable. The moment I realized how freaking cool parry is was during the Merciless Knight side quest. I walked in and there he was with 2 armored goons. These enemies are covered in armor and can only be damaged through a small opening. First I had to knock the helmet off, then deal with the second phase. It sounds simple, but it isn't. I dealt with the smaller ones first, but the main knight was tough. I kept landing shots in that tiny opening and he just wouldn't go down. Those huge sword swings were constant. At some point, I thought, can I actually parry this? A small knife against that giant sword didn't make sense, but I tried it and it worked. It looked ridiculous, but it felt amazing. Once I trusted the parry, the fight completely changed and I took him down smoothly.
Yeah, that's right.
Now about the rocket launcher, I always wanted to buy it, but that 80k price tag kept stopping me. It felt too expensive. Near the end of the game, after using almost every other weapon, I finally gave in. I sold a bunch of stuff and bought it, and I didn't have to wait long to use it. In the next area, after dealing with waves of enemies, this guy with the machine gun strapped to his arm shows up and just refuses to go down. I emptied shots into him and he kept pushing forward. That's when I thought, this is the moment. I pulled out the rocket launcher and in one shot, the dude was gone. It was expensive, but really satisfying. There's stealth in the game too. It's not deep, but it's useful. The crouch movement feels smooth and helped a lot in tighter areas. If I didn't want chaos, I could crouch, move slowly, and either slip past enemies or position myself better before starting a fight. There are knife stealth kills as well. I would sneak up, get the prompt, and finish enemies silently. That's pretty much it. But even taking out 1 or 2 enemies silently could make the difference between a manageable fight and total chaos. Stealth is simple here, but it works. There was one moment that genuinely scared the shit out of me. Not a cheap jump scare, but that slow, stressful kind of fear where I just wanted to get out of that area. The nitrogen section with that boss completely caught me off guard. I walked into this freezing industrial room, saw those buttons that release nitrogen gas, and at first I didn't even understand what they were for. Then the game reveals what's actually in there with me. And I just froze. Like, what is that? And is it coming for me? I literally paused the game for a second. The objective sounded simple. Turn the electricity back on and escape using the elevator. But nothing about it felt simple when something is hunting me in a tight dark space. I could hear him moving around and that sound alone made me nervous. After turning the power back on, there he was. He wasn't taking proper damage, and that's when it clicked. The nitrogen must be for him. So I lured him under one of the pipes, pressed the button, and froze him.
Frozen's a good look for you.
For a second, I felt smart, but then I realized freezing him only buys time. It doesn't end the fight. That's when the panic really kicked in. Now I'm running around the room, dragging him from one pipe to another, freezing him again and again, just trying to survive.
I think you need eat this.
While waiting for the elevator. And that elevator, it takes forever. At one point he grabbed me and I genuinely thought that was it, that I had to replay the whole thing. And right then, the elevator doors opened. I jumped in and finally got out. That whole sequence had me stressed from start to finish. It was crazy.
Getting tired of these games. Hey, the car's skipping over! It's them! Watch out!
After all that horror, the game suddenly shifts and goes full action. And I really enjoyed that change. The minecart section felt like something out of Uncharted, but it still had that Resident Evil pressure. I thought it would be a simple scripted ride, but it ramps up fast. Shooting while the cat is moving, reacting to enemies jumping in, and trying not to miss under pressure. I died a couple of times there. It was stressful, just in a different way. Just before that, I faced the double giants. At first, it was pure panic with both of them pushing me around the arena. But once I figured out the lava trap and how to control the space, it became really satisfying. I genuinely loved setting it up and watching them fall straight into the lava. And it's not just those moments. RE4 has some really strong set pieces throughout. The giant lake monster fight on the boat was chaotic in a fun way. The fight inside the burning house against Spanish Mr. X felt intense with everything collapsing around me. Each big action moment felt different from the last, and I had a blast with all of them.
There you go.
Overall, I really enjoyed Resident Evil 4. It has a bit of everything. Big set pieces, tense horror moments, a detailed world, memorable sections, and strong characters. I do have few minor issues, like the main antagonist not being as developed as I would have liked, and a couple of sections feeling a bit overwhelming, but they don't take away much from the whole experience. It didn't feel revolutionary to me the way it might have back in 2005, but that's understandable. And I'll be really honest, Resident Evil 2 Remake still holds the top spot for me. RE4 came close, but nothing here matched the constant pressure of Mr. X in RE2. That said, Resident Evil 4 reminds you how special games can be. It's tense when it needs to be, exciting when it wants to be, and it keeps you engaged from start to finish. Resident Evil 4 was clearly a must-play title in 2005, and even in 2026, it still is.